Welcome to the fourth episode of Brace for Impact, covering all things Impact Wrestling. We're here. It's the go-home show of Slammiversary, as always, live from No Cell Studios. It's Theus Tavern. He's Phil Retro, and joined by my good friend, Kentucky Waterfall, at Mullet.mania. Colton, what's up, dude?
What's going on, brother? Just, man, what a go-home episode. I didn't think I could get any more stoked for Slammiversary, but here we are.
We are ready for the big show this weekend, July 15th, and we'll, of course, preview it all throughout. But, man, want to set the stage for it. We had talked about just what they did on the build to Slammiversary, their biggest show of the year, akin to their WrestleMania. And I felt like this card was really well-rounded. But, man, we thought they didn't need a build-up even further, but I think they did the finishing touches that made it just that much better. I'm so excited for this weekend.
Yeah, man, same here. I thought they did a really good go-home show. I know a lot of times go-home shows can either kind of fall flat and not do enough, or sometimes do a little bit too much and overcomplicate the pay-per-view ahead. I thought this one was dialed in and right on the nose, man. I thought it was some good continuing development, and we had a fair amount of questions, especially concerning Scott D'Amore and Bully Ray, with PCO getting set on fire last week, and then of course hearing that Steve Macklin. So it was a really nice setup and a great go home show. Looking forward to Saturday.
You want to talk about making chicken salad out of chicken shit, man. They do the best with injuries that happen and turning some situations, and you could trace it all the way back to Josh Alexander with that serious injury having to relinquish the Impact World Championship. And here we are with all these sub-stories that have created a web of interesting stories that we don't know exactly where they're going to go. And you mentioned before the Macklin injury. It sucks. We don't like it. But it also has us questioning what exactly is going to go on, because the PCO thing and kayfabe blend, it's hard to imagine PCO is going to be active. But again, he is the French-Canadian Frankenstein, so we might see him in some capacity. But, man, there's a lot of questions that are left on the table and just enough answers to get us to be like, I know where they're going, but can't be exactly sure.
Yeah, just enough mystery to keep us guessing, which is great.
So with that said, let's get into the insight. We have a couple news stories to break down as we get ready for Slammiversary and getting you guys all caught up in the news of Impact Wrestling. Let's get to the insight.
The insight.
All right, here we are for the Insight section. We're going to be talking about the news in Impact Wrestling, and you guys can get all your news long form on Wrestling Tonight audio form on Tuesday mornings, Monday at 7 p.m. But when we want the fine-tuned stuff that falls through the cracks, unless we're just talking about Impact Wrestling, we have it right here for you. And they announced several matches for the Slammiversary Fallout TV taping that's happening that weekend from Windsor. And we have some good stuff on the table. Of course, we talked about Detroit Red Wings legend Darren McCarthy, who you may know him from the 90s, Stanley Cup winner. He's a guy who's been an enforcer, tough guy, trying his hand at professional wrestling. He'll be in action. We're going to see him as the special enforcer for that tag match we were referencing before. He's going to be teaming with Tommy Dreamer in Windsor, Ontario against Champagne Singh and Shira in the ring. But we also get Santino Marella versus Dirty Dango, probably the most built-up match on this card. We also have Ace Austin and Chris Bay versus Subculture. Of course, we know that's Flash Morgan Webster, and Mark Andrews. And Leo Rush versus Kushida. So we don't know the exact results of Slammiversary. Of course, it's live in Windsor, Ontario, but we have 4 matches for the show right after. Not many promotions do that, Colton.
No, man, not at all. And I feel like, it's a good move on their part. I feel like they, a lot of times, will lose some fans as far as, you're going to have a good crowd in there on Saturday for Slammiversary for certain. But, Sunday, people are kind of winding down their weekend, getting ready to go back to work, especially after having a big Saturday of wrestling. If they don't know what any of the matches are going to be, what's going to get them to come out 2 nights in a row. So I think this is a great strategy from them. I mean, I've seen that firsthand when they've come through Louisville and done. They did Sacrifice here year before last, and it was a great time. But there was also an AEW pay-per-view on Sunday the next day. So thankfully they don't have that to compete against this week for their TV taping, which is great. But I think nice job. I mean, Leo Rush and Kushida, man. I mean, that could be, if Leo Rush wasn't already occupied taking on Chris Sabin for the X Division Championship, I'd say that's a pay-per-view quality match right there. I'm excited for that.
100%. We've seen them link up most notably in May for the Best of Super Juniors tournament back for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So these guys have linked up before, not here on an Impact stage, of course, because Leo Rush just made his debut, but Kushida was just involved in the main event scene. He could have been the Impact interim world champion following the Josh Alexander injury, as we mentioned before. And he's here linking up with Leo Rush, and I think it's going to be an awesome match. Maybe it will be with the X Division champion. Maybe it'll be for the X Division championship if Leo Rush is able to take it home in Windsor, Ontario. But I love that they're doing this and they make the best of their tapings and maximize what they do in the scenarios that they're in. And they kind of know, and this is what we spoke about week after week, is they know who they are and they really tap into their identity. And even though it's taped, it still feels special. And I think that's some of what we saw tonight. Even though it was taped, they did a really good job of kind of immersing you in. You could have read the spoilers, but I think there's a lot to be said about watching what they do with like all the stuff on the outside, adding in those vignettes and adding in all the stuff that makes the show feel a little bit more fine-tuned. And I'm expecting more of that the night after Slammiversary.
Yeah, man, same here. I think it should be a good show, and hopefully the Ontario, the Windsor fans get a good showing out there, give them a good crowd.
So the other piece of news here, and this is a story that was covered extensively here on the Tavern, both on Wrestling Tonight. We talked about this on the Raw Down extensively about Trinity Mercedes Moné when they walked out, and the 35-year-old Trinity spoke about her and Mercedes walking out of WWE on May 16th, 2022, believe it or not. So it's over a year ago. Interesting quotes pulled here, and I think a lot of the social media stuff was this quote. There was a lot that happened. There was a lot that was said that ultimately led to me being in a position and feeling like this was the best for me, what I need to do. I still believe that. I still stand on that, and that's just what it is. Colton, she talks about her relationship with Mercedes, but now that we're a couple weeks into Trinity being on our TV screens, do you think this was the right decision for Trinity to come to Impact Wrestling, where Mercedes had her own path? Of course, she went to New Japan Pro Wrestling. She made a name for herself. She's wrestled in Stardom. Do you think it was the better choice for Trinity to kind of pave her own path over an Impact?
Absolutely. I think that Trinity has always had the potential to be a star and to be a main event level champion. And unfortunately, she never really got that rub in WWE. So, even though she could have absolutely gone with Mercedes over to New Japan, I think it's great that she's here in Impact. I think Impact's a perfect spot for her. I mean, not that the Impact women's division or Knockouts division is hurting for talent by any means, but I think Trinity has a lot to offer and brings a level of pedigree to this division coming over. And yeah, I don't want to see her in a tag team anymore or in any way, shape, or form. I think she's got championship, material written all over her, and I think that this is a great spot for her, man. I'm happy to have her in Impact.
Yeah, it definitely was one of those things you expected them to be a package deal going to wherever they went, whether it be AEW or maybe Impact. Maybe we would have seen Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné here in Impact. But I do think it's better for both of them to grow as individuals and competitors to go their separate ways. And I think all the stuff that she's learning, her being Mercedes over in New Japan Pro Wrestling and Stardom, of course, she's recovering from the injury. But while Trinity is blazing her own path and becoming even further of a star that we all know she can be, she shows glimpses of that in WWE. Of course, the inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion. She's been more than just a main event star. As you mentioned, they never really put the emphasis on her. And it feels like we're about to crown her as the, incoming queen of Impact Wrestling, and well-deserved, because she's someone who has star power. She's polished in the ring. I think any women's division would be lucky to build around her. And who knows, down the line, 35 years old is the 25 years old of, 20 years ago. So she's sitting in a spot where maybe 5 years from now, maybe less than that, her and Mercedes can get back together, whether it be over in WWE or maybe Mercedes comes over to here, or we know the working relationship between Impact and New Japan Pro Wrestling. So we know we're going to see them in the ring together at some point.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, man. It might not even be that long, given the open door policy. We see New Japan talent over in Impact all the time, and I absolutely love that aspect of this promotion, and that both promotions are willing to work together. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially if once Mercedes comes back from this injury and she gets some gold. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a title versus title match with Trinity, with the Knockouts champion.
It would be amazing to see. And I think, like I said, we're not going to bury the lead and talk about our predictions right now, but it seems like it's Trinity's time. And I think they're going to be, very pleasantly surprised with what she's able to do for the women's division. And right now she is undefeated, 4-0 record in singles matches, 2-0 in tag matches. And I think that continues in Slammiversary. But of course, we'll preview that going down the line for Slammiversary. So remember, Slammiversary's this Saturday, guys, July 15th. Stack card. And the way Colton and I kind of decided we were going to be doing this is instead of doing a separate segment where we're previewing match by match and giving you guys the graphics and then previewing the show that just happened, I thought the show was eventful enough to justify spending the significant time on the show by weaving in the preview of the matches. And I think you guys would enjoy that most because, man, I got to tell you, there's go-home shows. We can spend time, talk about AEW Dynamite, talk about AEW Collision, Raw, and SmackDown. Sometimes go-home shows, they punt the ball away. And they just say, we already did what we need to do prior. You're already going to watch the PLE or the pay-per-view. We know what it looks like. It felt like Impact. And this might have been the fact that they taped in bulk and this was happening on the same weekend in Atlanta, Georgia, at Center Stage. And they had an emphasis on making sure they did this. But they brought the noise, man. They brought high-packed action flavored throughout this whole card, specifically that Bayley and Kevin Knight match we'll cover. But, man, all over the place, these guys went out there and they did a good job of telling stories, but also the in-ring action was like, damn, I have to watch Slammiversary on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, if you weren't already sold on this pay-per-view, I don't see how you can not be into it after this episode, man. It's going to be a hell of a card.
With that being said, let's get the blow by blow. We'll talk about everything from BTI, talk about the main card, and as I mentioned, we will be previewing Slammiversary as we continue to go through here, give our predictions, talk about what we think is going to be happening down in Windsor, Ontario for the biggest show on the Impact calendar. But let's get to the blow by blow.
Blow by blow.
All right, so blow by blow, we usually sit here and we go match by match, segment by segment, talking about everything that happened on Impact on Access. And this match that happened on BTI, Dirty Dango and Heath, was a precursor to not a match happening at Slammiversary, Colton. We have a match that's for the Fallout. We just mentioned before in the news the taping's going to be Dirty Dango versus Santino Marella in this grudge match that's been up to a boiling point. And if you look at just the two characters, Fandango, of course, being Dirty Dango, or switch it around, Dirty Dango being Fandango in WWE, and then Santino Marella, they're both pretty much comedy wrestlers. Like, they have more of a flavor of doing the fun-loving stuff. But there's a side of Dirty Dango, of course, but Santino showing an edge to himself. Man, during this segment where Dango screamed up to the announce table when Santino was on the announce for this match against Heath, holy shit, man. Santino rushed down there, and the energy and the grit in both these guys, like, it's a different depth for both characters that we have never unlocked.
Right. And something that I never even knew I needed to see from either of these guys, but we got to thank Impact for giving it to us, man. Like, these guys are both, you were seeing a much more realistic side to them, much more, like you said, gritty, dark, very, holier than thou side of Dango. And then just, real, relatable, side in Santino Marella. I mean, if somebody's going to come out and talk shit about your daughter, you're going to get hot about it, man. And I mean, right. He popped up out of that seat. The security guards looked like they were, they were not, didn't look like they were working, holding him back. It looked like he was really about to take them out, getting over to Dirty Dango. And man, Dango laid in a pretty stiff elbow to him, man. Looked like he knocked Santino out cold. I've really enjoyed the build to this the last few weeks. It's been, some really, really good pre-tape vignette work with Dango. And then, Santino's usually doing segments backstage where he's commenting on what he said the week prior. It's a secondary story. I mean, you could even argue that maybe it's not even a mid-card story. It's an undercard story, but the level of development they put into it has made me very excited to see the payoff.
Absolutely. We saw Dirty Dango getting this win, a warm-up win, if you will, against Heath during this BTI segment. And it stands for Before the Impact. So it is a pre-show of sorts for Impact Wrestling. You guys can tune in and trying to get those people to watch and then be a gateway into purchasing this premium subscription on YouTube. That's how Colton and I are watching it. That's probably the most convenient way to do it if you're unable to get access. But I'm sure there's other ways like Sling and Hulu TV or whatever is out there for people that are cord cutters. But man, I got to say, BTI is a nice lead in. And the first couple of weeks we've done this, I was like, I don't need to watch it. But man, when I saw Dirty Dango's on here, I'm like, why not? I'll just tune in and check it out. And this was, again, a warm up. Dango got the win here. Cheats, of course. But then the everything that went on after the match with Santino. That was the main story here, setting the stage for a boiling point for both these dudes to tear each other's throats out on the Slammiversary Fallout, and gives you a reason to watch the Thursday after Slammiversary and gets us on the road after the biggest event of the year. It's important to set the stage after you kind of culminate for this big event. You want to be able to keep people engaged and what's next. And this is going to be something that pays off the week after.
Yeah, very cool. I can't say that I ever saw a storyline on like AEW Dark get developed this well. So, for the fact that they're doing this level of development on story with BTI is really cool. And I like too that, if you didn't get a chance to catch it before the show, they do always reference it during the main show, or at least they have the last few weeks, which I really appreciate. Kind of keeps everybody up to speed on what's going on.
So we get to our main show here, and they open up with this cold segments, and we reference this on Wrestling Tonight because in between our show and Wrestling Tonight, we got the news that Steve Maclin was hurt, so could not be competing in this tag match. That's been built up as a sub-main event, I'd say. Of course, we were mentioning before with the PCO build and everything that went down with the being lit on fire and the battery acid. We had to figure out who'd be teaming with Bully Ray, and this, Steve Maclin going down with an injury is pretty significant. But this is kind of cool, seeing the Busted Open radio clip with Bully Ray, and he's explaining why he wants to replace him with this person being Diener. And, man, I thought this was a really good tie-in. It shows, like, the pop culture of Busted Open radio, and all of that kind of makes the environment seem a little bit bigger. And even though this is not the intended match you wanted, it also – maybe there's a silver lining here that there's something cooler on the horizon.
Yeah, man, I like this. Obviously unfortunate that Maclin got hurt, and when you call an audible, you always kind of risk fumbling the storyline a little bit, but I thought they just picked it up and ran with it here, man. And I thought the fact that Diener kind of shot his shot to be Bully's opponent on Busted Open, I love that. It gives it blurs the lines of kayfabe, and it gives it also, just kind of a little bit of a layer of reality in our wrestling, and I love that shit. This was it was pretty cool. And then you got to see, Scott D'Amore had a response to Diener as well. And, I love seeing matches built outside of weekly TV. When you can get that opportunity on a different stage, like Busted Open Radio, to do so, I mean, that's just awesome. So this is, like I said, unfortunately he got hurt, but they really, really hit a slam dunk, I think, with the way they set this up for, at least for Bully's partner. So
looking at this match here, we have the card here, Bully Ray and Diener with, we mentioned before, Special Enforcer Darren McCarthy, Red Wings legend versus Scott D'Amore. And we don't know yet, but we do think we know, Colton. And I guess we can have that conversation when it comes up. But as far as predictions go for this match, where are you leaning as far as storytelling goes? And I guess it's the spot to make our pick. It feels like there's no other time to talk about it, but I honestly thought with Steve Maclin in the match, my whole perspective of what's going to go down completely changes.
Yeah, I think my prediction is still the same. Just for this, and I wasn't sure until last week, but just over the last few weeks where we've been seeing these packages, kind of everybody putting Scott D'Amore over and talking about his, legacy and his impact on the business, and, what he's done for pro wrestling and what he's done, for other pro wrestlers and bringing them up. I think that I think that Scott's going over here, no matter who his partner ends up being. I did see, we'll get to that later, I promise. We did see the Scott D'Amore phone call after a post show there. I do have a theory as to who I think his partner is going to be. Now that we know that they're not going to be able to bring PCO back from the dead. So yeah, I thought that was another, man. This is why I love Impact. Their storytelling is just fantastic. Like you didn't need that clip, but it's already, I mean, everybody is already talking as soon as it went off the air. It really way to stir conversation leading up, in the 2 days prior before this show goes live.
So first off, thanks for watching RK Shuttleworth. I appreciate the support. Glad you're enjoying Impact Wrestling. And yes, we did see that. And I think it strikes up the conversation. I think for those that have been watching Impact Wrestling for a bit, the payoff will be there. And we go back to all the way to December 2022 for the payoff here and the tie-in with Diener. And again, you go back to this where if Maclin is in the match, Diener's not in the match. Does that change what they were originally going to do? My prediction as well. I think Scott D'Amore goes over. I think he's going to hit the Destroyer on Bully Ray. I think they've been teasing it. I really think he's going to hit it on him. maybe Bully Ray's too big for it, but I think that's the moment. I think they're going to be doing it. They're going to figure out a way to get it done. And Scott D'Amore probably gets the pin on Bully Ray. And I think that's the way it's going to go. And I'm very excited for this match. As I mentioned, it is a main event, a Jace level build for a tag match that doesn't have any title stakes. And this just speaks to what Impact's able to do by building matches to make them feel important. And this feels very important. You know, the conversation continued about Steve Macklin, where we're like, oh, you know, everyone's like, oh, he was a transitional champion. Does that hurt his build to be a main eventer? And in normal terms, you could probably make that argument. But looking at where he went, they turned him into a certified main eventer that if they want to plug and play and heat him up down the line to challenge the eventual champion, whether it be Nick Aldis or whether it be continue to be Alex Shelley or someone else down the line, you can always do that. He's just another main eventer, and he's continuing to get that rub here in this main event program with guys that are of this main event ilk. Bully Ray is a main event talent here in Impact Wrestling, whether people like him or not. He is at that level. And the Scott D'Amore program, it's as over as any other program here in professional wrestling. He gets huge reactions, and the stuff he's able to do in the ring, it's fun. Like, that's what wrestling's about.
Yeah, and it's like I said, sucks to get him, sucks to ever have an injury that hangs you up on the shelf for any amount of time. But honestly, for it to happen, this is a good time, I feel like, because they've, like you said, they've done a good job of continuing to build him as a heel and putting him in the storyline with Billy and Scott D'Amore. Has continued to keep him fresh, kind of on the main event scene with everybody, even after losing the title. And, he had a lot of heat going into this match, and, he's not going to be able to be there. So I think he's going to pick up, and that heat's going to be just as hot as soon as he returns.
Interesting point here. If it is who we are thinking, it makes Macklin's injury look set up. I know you said you were going to talk about it later. That's a good point. I didn't think about Macklin's injury being set up. Maybe we're being worked here by the dirt sheets, and maybe it was set up by Impact in there. They did have control of the narrative, of course, because these are taped shows that we would have known about the Macklin injury. So RK Shuttleworth, you might be onto something very fascinating, but we will talk about that when we get to the phone call, because we want to go in order here and talk about it. But I appreciate the sport. We appreciate the conversation. Thanks for hanging here on Thursday night. But let's get to Zachary Wentz match here. And this is the first time we've seen Zachary Wentz in quite some time in action. Took on Chris Bay. And originally, as we're watching this match, we discussed it last week on Brace for Impact. We thought that this would be the Rascals' entry into this four-way, eventually making a five-way tag match for the tag titles. And, the Rascals thought the same thing. So
yeah.
It was funny as hell to see this kind of blow up in their face.
It really was, man. And, I love that they turned it into, they were able to tell a story with it, because, we're about 2 minutes into the match, and Tom Hannafin, just kind of drops the breadcrumb that, we never did hear Impact officials make that an official stipulation with this going in. So, he dropped the breadcrumb there, and, this was a good match. This was a good way to open the card. Chris Baker took control early on. Wentz rolls out of the ring, slows down the pace, gets a little chatty, talking shit towards Ace Austin, gets everybody kind of flustered and distracted, and gets a nice cheap shot with a big boot in on Bay, and takes a little bit of control. At that point, when Hannafin says, Impact officials never made the stipulation that the Rascals would be able to get into here no matter what the outcome of this match. But Chris Bay takes control back again pretty quickly. But Trey Miguel continues to distract on the outside. So Trey Miguel ends up taking down Ace Austin. Bay goes up to the ropes, drop kicks Trey Miguel. And while that happens, good old Zachary Wentz gets him a foreign object, and nobody really ever got eyes on what it was.
It looked like brass knucks to me, or like a ring or something, but they never revealed it. I thought he would have shown it in that backstage segment, but yeah, you're right. We didn't see what it was.
Yeah, I thought so as well. But yeah, it's obvious that he had some sort of foreign object in his hand, because he hit Chris Bay with a right hook, and then you could see him toss something out into the crowd. So cheats to get the win there. And they go backstage and are talking to Santino Marella, saying, "Hey man, we're moving in, right? This means we're in there." And he said, "Yeah, I saw you win, but I also saw you cheat." So love a good old Santino Marella keeping it real and being the voice of authority and reason here. So also, I mean, as much as I would like to see the Rascals in the mix, because they are a great tag team, we already got 4 really great tag teams in this match, and I feel like throwing a fifth be an awfully crowded ring, man, and I would hate to muddy up what's already a really good setup with 4 teams. So I think this was the right move all around.
Absolutely. And before I get to my thought on that, this match, was akin to an old school X Division match. I thought this was, the early days of TNA, bright spots built on matches like this, where guys would go out there and work their ass off for 8 to 9 minutes here. And they did a good job of telling the story about the tag match in the future. But I thought it planted good seeds for what the money program is. It's the Rascals versus ABC with the tag titles on the line. And we'll get to my prediction for that tag match. But I think the big story here, you look at all the teams in this match that are originally in the Slammiversary match, the 4-way. ABC to me they're on this run. They are the primo tag team in Impact Wrestling. If not in all of wrestling, they are one of the top tag teams. And the Rascals have just reunited. Trey Miguel has, been flourishing as a single star, but then bring Zachary Wentz back into the fold. These guys have been absolutely a great addition. And I think you're right, man. If not anything, the match itself would have been too muddied up with a 5-way. But I think really it has just more pining for this one-on-one tag match we're going to get on a bigger stage, whether it be at Emergence or whether it be down the line in the fall, like if we're going to wait that long. But I think the money feud is for the tag titles between the Rascals and ABC. Man, I thought this is really well done. And it also puts credence and importance on the authority figures in wrestling, whether it's Santino or otherwise. Not only Hannafin said they have to approve it. Guys in the back can't just make matches and make stipulations. Doesn't matter. It was awesome to see, like, Santino's watching. It doesn't take you for a fool. Like, you saw him cheat, so I think it was really well done and important.
Yeah, I thought so as well, man. I'm looking forward to this 4-way tag coming up on Saturday.
So we had a promo video, and they did a good job of this all night, where they're weaving in these really nicely edited promo videos for Alex Shelley, Nick Aldis. And this was highlighting Alex Shelley's career and talking about the 20 years of the grind to get to the Impact World Championship. And then it showed the focus on Nick Aldis, his journey back to Impact, his own history as Magnus, winning the title from Jeff Hardy for the first time, and then goes back to Shelley. And then Shelley really talking about being this innovator and the person who had to reinvent the wheel here in wrestling, and his learning tree, and then the guys who sat under it. And that although Nick Aldis wants to perceive him as being this mentor, it wasn't like that. He's like, I wasn't even teaching you anything. You might have learned things through osmosis from me, but I inspire an entire generation, sit under the learning tree and enjoy everything I've done for the current state of wrestling. I thought this was really well done, really nicely edited, felt goddamn important as you're watching. It's like, man, this is a big fight feel.
Yeah. Huge shout out to the production personnel in Impact, man. Their vignettes, all their backstage segments. This is cream of the crop stuff, man. This is like you said, the editing is incredible. The camera work's incredible. Just the production value from this company never ceases to impress me. And I liked how this wasn't, especially this, because we got vignettes all night leading up to Slammiversary. I liked how this one was kind of both of them telling their side. It wasn't just a straight Aldis or a straight Shelley package, which I really enjoyed. The juxtaposition of both of them together here, I thought was great.
100%. And I think, we should pull up that match now and do the preview, because I think now is just a good time as ever to talk about
absolutely
the main event here. Nick Aldis versus Alex Shelley for the Impact Championship. And this is a match that we've been looking forward to for quite some time. This is not exactly the path that I think Impact Creative probably had. They thought they would be in a spot. Nick Aldis is a guy who is fairly new. I think he was going to be in this spot. If we look at the pipeline before the injury for Josh Alexander, I would like to think he'd still be champion on this historic run. But here we are. This is a nice side story that we were able to get, making the best out of a shitty situation with the injury to Alexander. And here we are, man. Alex Shelley, Nick Aldis, big fight feel. And this is as big as it gets, man, because Alex Shelley, as we mentioned, the journey towards getting to this championship and holding on to it is important, just as important as winning it. He doesn't want to be known as a transitional champion. And it's very rare because, it felt like a foregone conclusion. If Macklin went into this match, it felt like Macklin was going to drop the title and do the job for Aldis, and it would be Aldis's run. We get Aldis and we get Trinity and we get this new run of Impact talent at the top of the card. I'm not so sure anymore, especially since he just won that title. My pick here is Alex Shelley. I think he's going to win, and I think we're going to have a heel Nick Aldis chasing the title down the line, and we're going to get a rematch. I think it's inevitable. Nick Aldis will be champion. I just don't think it's going to be on Slammiversary on Saturday.
Yeah, man, I've gone back and forth myself quite a few times, and I've, but also been like, what what's the timeline for Josh Alexander's return? That kind of plays into my decision making a little bit here. I've been feeling really torn about this one all evening, man. But I think I'm going to side with you. I think it's going to be Alex Shelley. And really I think the deciding factor for me was the fact that in a later vignette we saw on the show that was just exclusively Aldis talking about the championship of the match, he referenced the fact that Alex Shelley doesn't want to be known as a transitional champion. And, like I said, I could see it going either way. But I'm gonna go with Shelley here. I'm gonna say that he keeps it, and I love the Nick Aldis chase, and I'd like to see it continue a little bit longer before he picks up the belt and starts a reign of terror.
It's a more challenging path to have a heel chase, but I think Impact Creative can find a way to continue this story and not just kind of pull the plug on it. I think there's more to it. There's electricity in the air when these two guys are linking up, and Alex Shelley, for all intents and purposes, it's a good way to get his flowers this way. I think people are realizing just how influential he is. People that have been watching Impact TNA for his run here, they all know what the Motor City Machine Guns mean to wrestling, but this is an opportunity on a big stage for him to really be recognized for his influences in professional wrestling, being mentors to the Young Bucks, countless others of the current style that we know and love. Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, these guys are the godfathers of this style. Been working for this long time. 20 years is a long time. 20 years in the same company is even longer. And I think he deserves more than just a month and a half of a title reign. And I'm going with my gut here. Like I said, I think Aldis is inevitable. I think he's going to be the big bad that when Josh Alexander comes back as a conquering hero, he's going to be the one to take it from Aldis, but that's long down the line. I think Aldis has to wait a little bit, and that's going to be more of an interesting story, just coming up just short, despite probably pulling out all the stops and trying to get that title and putting it around his waist. I just don't think it ends right now. I think Shelley's going to continue the reign, and we may be wrong. And I think that's the best part about predicting this card. It feels like it can go one way or the other.
Yeah, most definitely, especially with this match, because usually when I make a prediction, I'm pretty solid on it. And on this one, I'm really not, man. I'm really just kind of taking a shot here. I'm with you. I think my pick is Shelley, but I would not be surprised at all if it goes on Aldis, to be perfectly honest. I've got a lot of faith in Impact Creative, and I don't think I'm going to be upset either way.
No, that's a good point. I think that's the best part of this story here. And I'm putting my own fandom into the Motor City Machine Guns and wanting Shelley to have this fairy tale story. And sometimes with wrestling, they pull the plug because that's what gets the best reaction. I just think for the story, I think there's more. I think them having another secondary match where maybe Aldis comes out on top with more build towards it, especially when you're weaving in and out of this Leo Rush and Chris Sabin thing. I think all of these things, as beautifully done, the beautiful story that Impact has done is all these stories are weaved together. And that is the most interesting part to me, because it feels like we are just about to have Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley standing at the top, and maybe they both crumble down and they're both standing with no championships at the end, but who knows? That's the best part about them doing this story with both these guys who are typically tag wrestlers. Yeah,
it adds a whole nother element to it, man. I'm excited to see how it pans out for both guys.
Here we are right now. So we got Mike Bailey. Well, we have a question here about from RK Shuttleworth in here. He said, is Chris Sabin going to take on Alex Shelley later? That's also in play. It is a very, very good point. Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, I feel like that almost has to be one with the biggest championship on the line. Maybe they even decide to do title for title. But, and also talking about the influence, I started watching TNA because of these guys partially. I mean, all of us. I mean, they show highlights on, which is awesome, on the YouTube channel. They show highlights of all the Impact stuff. And they did show an Ultimate X match where Chris Sabin won the title. I think it was, I don't even know what year it was, but we had Suicide in the match. But it just shows how long these guys have been around. And also shout out to Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. They'll be in Deer Park, New York for Remarkable Wrestling. It's going to be an amazing night of, I'll be ring announcing. I'll be lucky enough. Hopefully I'll be announcing the Impact World Champion, Next Division Champion come September, but you never know. It has a whole bunch of title defenses down the line. So yeah, going to be some good stuff, man. But let's get into Bailey and Kevin Knight. And I was listening to F4W online radio, Lance Storm, Brian Alvarez, and of course, Lance Storm works in Impact Wrestling as a producer. And he was talking about in that group of tapings in Atlanta, circling a match, and said a while ago, Mike Bailey versus Kevin Knight is a match you have to check out. And goddamn, he wasn't kidding. This was freaking awesome, Colton. They went balls to the wall. Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight shown out here. And this is like the de facto match. If you had to show a match from either one of these guys, be like, this is why I'm a fan of them. This match was perfect as an introduction to this is why you watch these guys.
Yeah, man, this was incredible, man. Just spot after spot. If this hadn't been a go-home show for Slammiversary, this absolutely could have been a main event on any other weekly TV, man. This was a killer match. It was, just both guys, man, just came out looking like roses. Like a loss here doesn't hurt either one of these guys because they both just got to do such a good showcase of their athleticism and their ability. Just, yeah, this was killer.
Such a fantastic match, and the speed of both these guys. And Kevin Knight gets ridiculous air on a lot of the moves he takes and moves he gives, the standing frog splash for one. And, Mike Bailey out there doing his usual stuff. I'm very familiar with him watching GCW on the quarterly events that they have. And he's all over the place. The local indies had a great showing in PWG, the Bola tournament as well. He's all over the place. But this is his coming out party. I kind of circled him as a household name that probably be signed to a big promotion at the end of this year. And I think that stands true. I think he has a bright future in professional wrestling. And we're going to see them out here for this Ultimate X match. Mike Bailey, John Gresham, Kushida, Kevin Knight, and Angels. And we were conjecturing about it last week, Colton. We didn't know the stakes of this match. We do know now the winner will get an X Division Championship match anytime they want. But what a preview for this match. We got the preview last week with John Gresham and Angels. And then, of course, we got Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, different combinations. I'm interested to see what these dudes do in that environment because we know how dangerous and how eventful it can actually be.
Yeah, man, most definitely. This is going to be a showstopper of a match. This is going to be whatever comes on after the card after this is going to be this will be a hard one to follow. I think I'm gonna go with in this X Division match for the number one contender. I'm gonna go with Angels, man, and the reason being, not only is the guy also incredibly talented, and all the guys involved in this match are, but just kind of what we've seen, the writing on the wall of the design kind of breaking down, and especially unclear. We didn't hear anything from Angels regarding the design in his promo this week, but it seemed pretty clear to me last week that like he's over Diener's shit, and he's not. I think the design is done with Angels, and I think the guy. I don't think he needs a stable or faction, whatever you want to call it. I think the guy can stand alone on his own laurels, and I think this would be an awesome opportunity for him to get a title shot.
Absolutely. And I mean, Angel's a good pick, and I think they have him on a mini push here. My gut says Kushida, and I'm just looking at all the names in here and just how they've been presented here on the Impact canon. I think Kushida has been a main eventer. Not that these guys all haven't been some sort of main player here. John Gresham and Mike Bailey can make the argument. They've been very close to the top of the card as well. I just feel like Kushida is going to come out here. And I think whoever walks out of this match is probably not beating the X Division champion. I think that's also out there as well, where this title is pretty much on par, if not just a smidge below the World Championship right now with Saban holding it. It feels very prestigious, and this is just going to set up the next contender. I'm not sure if it's going to set up the next long-form program. I think, as RK Shuttleworth said in the chat, we may get a Saban Shelley program down the line where the both competitors have this grudge that starts, and maybe it's just out of mutual respect. I think that's going to be setting the larger story. And I kind of want to see that blossom into a full story. But that being said, this X Division match is going to steal the show. It's going to be action-packed. I'm going to go Kushida, but I'd be happy with pretty much any single one of these guys. I'm just curious what they're going to do out there to stand out. We've seen a lot of Ultimate X matches in the history of Impact and TNA throughout the years. How are they going to stand out? And I think these guys are thinking about it right now. We have Mike Bailey racking his brain on how to stand out during this spot. We've seen huge spots, risks that's been taking all over the place. They're going to up the bar here because these guys, that's what they do.
Yeah, it's the reason. It's the whole idea behind the X Division, man, is raising the bar and making any match that comes after it hard to follow.
So go out of your way, guys, to watch this match between Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey. Mike Bailey wound up getting the win with the Ultimate Weapon. Just stiff kicks, action-packed. This match is top to bottom. Great stuff. So, and also shout out to Mike Bailey for wrestling with no shoes. I don't know how the dude does it. It's one of those things that just blows me away. And It's amazing that he's able to do it, but he's out there throwing kicks with his big toe loose. So,
and like you said too, man, Kevin Knight's verticals are absolutely incredible. Just him like jumping off a grapple hold, like guy looks like he's clearing like almost 5 feet. Like it's incredible.
His drop kick is akin to Okada's drop kick, where his standing drop kick was almost parallel to his forehead. And man, and Mike Bailey's not the biggest dude, but to be able to get that high from a standing vertical, it just speaks to the athleticism of both these guys. Amazing. And, Mike Bailey too gave Kevin Knight a lot in this match too. That just makes you a little bit more excited for the future of the X division as you see these guys go out there, because you got the mix of vets, current stars, and also this future rung of great competitors. But before we get to the next match here, we have this awesome promo with Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly. Video package where they're talking about destroying the Coven at Slammiversary. We know the history between Masha and Killer Kelly and the dog collar match and feeding into that. But this match was announced earlier today on the pre-show. Well, I think this is right here. So, nope, that's the other match here. But let me just pull this down quick. It's hard to see, but we have the Masha Slammiversary Killer Kelly stuff going on, destroying the Coven at Slammiversary. I'm going to find the card for you quick. But talk about this promo. I mean, it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, dude, this promo was awesome. I mean, I touched a little bit earlier on just the production quality and just the look of these packages that we're getting from the production team at Impact. And like this one was incredible, man. I mean, this looked like this could have been a music video. Like it was these guys, like the chain. You had Masha speaking, like cutting promos exclusively in Russian. You had Killer Kelly translating for her. It was awesome, man. It had I feel like it perfectly encapsulated both vibes of both of these women. And it was kind of some kinky and kind of like some sexual tension. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know what other word to use to describe it, man. But yeah, it was, it had some bedroom undertones to it. Almost,
Colt needed a cold shower after this promo. No, but dude, I mean, this was so well done, man. Masha is just primo, and I just think like what they're doing on the women's side of things, knockout side of things, tag division, and this is what everybody looks at with give the women's division tag titles. The only justified division is Impact because they're the original. This is what they've been doing. They continue to hit home run after home run with their programs. They're meaningful. You can't just gift championships to a division without a division that doesn't exist. That's why the WWE Women's Championship, the tag championships don't work. It's because they don't put the time and the build and everything that should go into it. They don't put the effort that Impact puts it in. And just this small segment, this video package was almost better than anything we've got on AEW and WWE television as far as women go in a long time, promo-wise.
Oh, yeah. Hands down, man. And you want to talk about the tag division, like, Masha and Killer Kelly are not an established tag team, but given their history with the dog collar match, I mean, they're not a throw together like Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan are. And no disrespect to both of those women. I think they're both incredible talent, but like there really is no story to putting them together. And other than just putting them together because neither of them really have anything else going on as a singles, like this was very organic, the creation of this team. And I mean, they both had a common enemy in the Coven right there. And they didn't try too hard. It's not overproduced. Really looking forward to this match. The Coven's had a pretty good run with these tag titles. So I think my prediction is that Masha and Killer Kelly are going to take it. I think Masha's probably, she's been recently, I know she just lost it to Blake Christian not that long ago, but she had the GCW championship there for a while. I think it'd be good to have Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich as a team for a little while. Give some other folks, other gals opportunity in the knockouts division to kind of have a spot at the top and become a contender, like Trinity and also some others, So yeah, I think I think they're going to take it.
Absolutely. And I think the history of Masha and Killer Kelly is so beautifully told, and bitter enemies turn mutual respect. And we're seeing them, they are dangerous apart, but even more dangerous together. And we saw what they're capable as rivals. But I think the most exciting thing is seeing them as a tandem. We saw a glimpse of it here. You mentioned the vibes they were giving off in the promo, but it was awesome. It was something that felt meaningful. And, like you mentioned, Taylor Wilde and Kylan King have had a really good run with those Knockouts tag titles. They feel deserving of a tag championship. And I know that sounds stupid, but there's a lot of tag titles that exist out in the world. We can talk about even like the ROH tag titles right now. Lucha Brothers haven't defended in over like 120 days. These are defending champions. The Coven are going out there and making these titles mean something, and a program that really it speaks for itself. I mean, the history, of course, the build mostly is on Masha and Killer Kelly's side, but the history between Taylor Wilde and Kylan King with them singularly and also as a team makes for a very exciting match, and it's going to be some dynamite going on in the ring for this. I think Masha and Killer Kelly walk away new champions, and I'm looking. Damn, it's going to be a lot of fun. Former GCW World Champion. Masha Slamovich continues to impress, and I think she's going to continue to impress here. She's one of the best stars in all of wrestling.
Yeah, and they're real comfortable with that dog collar chain, man. They've been wearing it pretty much nonstop with each other for 3 weeks. I don't know if they're going to get the memo that they have to take that off for this match. But yeah, I don't want to be the one to have to tell them.
Or maybe you do. But here we are now with this match I was referencing before, and this is kind of tied with this pre-show stuff I was talking about before. Joe Hendry and Yuri Uemura versus Kenny King and Sheldon Jean. This was a lot of fun. Of course, we get Joe Hendry coming out first, cutting a promo, and everyone sing along to his song. The other great part about this match is they're really feeding into this stripper Kenny stuff with him coming out with a sweater on throughout the match and everyone chanting stripper Kenny at him. And then the spot, man, where they pulled the sweater off, King trying to escape. The fans pop huge for it. You got Kenny trying to hide his chest with the shirt coming off, and he's running around trying to escape sight from the fans. Hendry hit the standing ovation on Sheldon Jean for the win, while Kenny King is trying to cover himself up. No amount of conversation does this justice. You have to check this out. Pop me huge watching, and they do such a good job. Love all the characters, well-developed in this match. Joe Hendry being the most well-developed. I think he's so great at what he does, but everyone around him just feeding off of him. And the Kenny King stuff, I mean, this is getting over. The stripper Kenny stuff is getting over, and this is on the pre-show, guys. The pre-show.
Yeah, this was super. The crowd was super hot for this, man. I mean, as Pat Patterson would say, this is just perfect definition of Gaga, man. This is the perfect comedy match. I love this. I love this in the show. I mean, when Joe first came out, I thought this was just going to be a Joe Hendry promo. I didn't even know we were going to get a match out of it. But like you said, the match told the story even better by, Kenny was pulling his shirt down, trying to keep the whole match. Even before Joe tried to get it off of him, he was pulling his hoodie down. And yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fantastic, man. You got to watch the pre-show. I've never seen a pre-show match have really any development or build up, and if I have seen one, it's been nowhere near this good. So yeah, this is going to be awesome. There's no way in hell this belt's coming off Joe Hendry. I'll tell you that right now. I don't see it coming off anytime soon. I believe in Joe Hendry. I think everybody at Center Stage in Atlanta does. I'm sure there's a fair amount of folks up in Windsor that do. I don't think there's a chance that Kenny's taking this belt off Joe. No way.
I agree. Zero chance we're going to get Joe Hendry losing this, but I think in a losing effort, Kenny King can be made into a star. This is on a pre-show, and you mentioned before it makes the most sense because it is a digital media championship. Joe Hendry retains, but I got to say, enjoy Joe Hendry while he's here, because I think he's going to be a mega star. It's a matter of time before WWE gets their claws on him and make him in, because he has charisma oozing from him. And to me, it's a finished package. It's just absolutely, and you put the machine behind him. I would hate to see him go, but I think it's inevitable. So enjoy him while he's here and appreciate the segments, because the promos, the singing, even the stuff in this match, it's all just perfect. This is a perfect eclectic mix of type of things on a wrestling card. This is the buffet of the comedy that you need on the card, and it fits so perfect. It's lighthearted with a lot of the heavy stuff going on the card. This is perfect, and Hendry fits that role, man.
I thought the exact same thing watching him come out tonight, man. I was like, gosh, he is just perfect perfectly packaged for WWE to just scoop him up and take him. And like I said, I hope it doesn't happen anytime soon because I think he adds a lot to the Impact roster, and I absolutely love him. But I think I think the big machine out of New York or out of Stanford's gonna pick him up. Very much so. I'm too used to talking about 1994, calling the machine in New York because it was back then still. But
he'd get over in Smoky Mountain too, that's for sure.
You're damn right.
But man, I agree. I think Henry's awesome here, and I would love to see more meaningful stuff for him throughout the Impact universe. But it fits well on this digital media stuff, and they've made a lot of stuff out of this program that has had immediate build. It's been a few weeks old, but there's some meaning, and this could have just been a throwaway. So we also have here at RK Shuttleworth in here, well, Joe Hendry might have his eye on the world champion still before he thinks of going anywhere, but we will see. I hope so. I think it'd be awesome to see him get involved in the main event because we see characters like this, if done right, can be taken very serious. I'm not saying he's not taking seriously, but he is that, he's shown edges outside of just this lighthearted guy. He can go in the ring. There's a lot of untapped potential that could be for the main wrestling fan that's not consuming Impact at this moment. They're missing out first and foremost, but I think the WWE fans going to be well accustomed, and he'll fit right into what they're doing and just be blossom to the top. I can see him similar to like a Grayson Waller being built around. That's how great I think that he can be.
Yeah, most definitely. And I agree, RK Shuttleworth, if he sticks around long enough, I think he'll absolutely have a shot at the title, and I certainly hope he gets it. But like I said, as talented as the guy is, I think he could get scooped up faster than that.
But let's enjoy him while he's here. I think it's going to be a good match. Kenny King, we both are in agreement. He's going to be retaining that digital media championship, continuing to bring prestige to it, man. A nice lengthy reign thus far. But speaking of a guy going for the title, we had Lio Rush cutting a promo, sitting in what looked to be like a business chair or a throne. Great shadows, great lighting in this promo. He talked about why he came to Impact Wrestling and said it all circles around the X Division Championship. Absolute great promo. Ends it with, you're going to find out why they call me the bad child. This was followed up with a Chris Sabin, Gia Miller segment, but let's first talk about this Lio Rush promo. Another great job by Impact Production, really doing their best to highlight the strengths of these guys. And we've talked about the last 3 weeks. Lio Rush has felt like a main eventer right away. And that's hard to do when you introduce him. It's been 2 weeks. You're right.
2 weeks.
It's pretty wild that he's sitting here at the top of the card and feels like he could walk away beating Chris Sabin. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but at least you have a sliver of doubt that he could beat him. And that's saying a lot after, like you said, you put the 2 up there, 2 weeks.
Yeah. I just in the first week, how well they built him, man. I mean, they fast tracked him, just having him come out for that segment with Aldis and go, or after Aldis was in the ring, beating down on Shelley and having him come after Sabin. Yeah, they've just done a killer job with him in 2 weeks. I thought this was a great promo from Lio Rush. I've always been a fan of Lio Rush's in-ring work. I got to say, and it's probably an unpopular opinion, but I could not stand him with Bobby Lashley. I thought his promo work, and I think he was supposed to be a heel that you couldn't stand, but boy, it didn't land with me. And I was when he left WWE, I was like, I'm happy to see this guy in the ring, but I don't know if I want to see much of his mic work. But pulling him away out of that manager role, he's great on the mic. I really enjoyed this promo. He started out, kind of backhand compliments on Sabin, and then he's like, you know what? I don't really give a damn. I'm here to take the title. I'm not here to make friends. And yeah, this is going to be a killer match, man. I'm really, really looking forward to this one.
I love what they're doing, tapping into Shelley and Sabin's history. They do such a good job. And we talk about it all the time with other wrestling promotions. You can't buy history. And sometimes wrestling promotions want to shy away from it. We've seen Impact have a few iterations of their existence where they aren't really tapping into their history, maybe not as proud of some of the things that went down in certain years, but they do a really good job of highlighting the history of this company. Sitting here with Sabin and Shelley at the top of your card, X Division and World Champion, and highlighting what they've done. And also Lio Rush coming in and acknowledging, I'm a fan. I've watched you guys. I respect what you've done, but I'm not really into nostalgia. And it's amazing sitting here, and TNA feels like it's still, a thought that was new, but it's not that TNA is been around for a very long time and eventually became what we now know as Impact Wrestling. Lio Rush was probably, a kid, teenager watching these guys wrestle. And that's really interesting to think about. And I like that they tap into it because it makes it feel even more important that he's sitting there, looking up to Chris Sabin, but wanting to beat him. And that's the edge here that doesn't need much build, but tie into Lio Rush's athleticism and the ability to really carry the X Division if given the chance. It adds a really, really interesting twist to this match.
Yeah, man, I agree. This is another one. I mean, should we go ahead and cover our predictions for the X Division Championship?
Well, let's talk about the Chris Sabin promo first with Gian Miller.
Yeah, absolutely.
His promo, I mean, it was pretty, paint by numbers type of stuff, but he did talk about and acknowledge, again, we talk about the legitimacy to the officials here in Impact and giving them some credence and make them feel legitimate. They talk about Lio Rush jumping the line, and sometimes wrestling flexibility and the gymnastics we have to do to justify getting title shots, they just face it head on. That the cheat code was to hop ahead by insulting him and disrespecting him and getting in his face and making sure that he has a chance. But really like how he tied it in. Now, even though you have a cheat code, you have to face the final boss being me. Hail Sabin, man. This was great stuff.
Yeah, man. And I also, beginning of the program, he took a pretty hard dig at Leo, basically saying that no locker room in professional wrestling wants him around. And I thought that was pretty sharp barb to throw, but I like it. I love that kind of shit, man. This is going to be an incredible match. This is another one where I could see it going absolutely either way. It's hard, but RK Shuttleworth, you talked about earlier about maybe seeing Chris Sabin against Alex Shelley for the title. If he retains here and he exercises option 3, that frees up the X Division title and also puts him in a promo. That could be a really cool storyline. Who do you got here, Ace?
I'm going with Chris Sabin retaining. I think it's going to be a really competitive match. Lio Rush just comes up short. The old school mind of thinking Lio Rush can't lose here. I think that's just wrong. I think Lio Rush coming up short and having a similar to Aldis, doing a little bit of a chase. Maybe it's not even after the X Division Championship. That's his entry into this kind of Impact regime here, trying to find his way. But I think there's more story to be told with the Motor City Machine Guns at the top of each of the division. I think Chris Sabin wins this match in a highly, highly competitive match that's likely to steal the show in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Chris Sabin as well here, man. I think if you'd asked me last week, I think I maybe would have picked Lio Rush, but I think you're right. I think there's more meat on the bone here with Chris Sabin with the X Division. I think it's gonna be highly competitive, and like we said, Leo's been here 2 weeks, man. His third week will be Slammiversary. Or it's not, he'll be 2.5 weeks in at Slammiversary. So this doesn't hurt Leo at all to lose here. And it certainly doesn't take him out of the X Division title picture either, I don't think. I don't think it'd be very long before we see them at it again. So
that also brings up the point from Dynamite. Everyone's talking about Nick Wayne's debut on Dynamite losing to Swerve Strickland, and everyone's like, oh, how does he lose on his debut? That's not making the fans care about him. I just think that mindset is archaic and antiquated. I don't think it's something that resonates with the fan today. You don't have to win. You don't have to go over to get over. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. Lio Rush, if competitive, if he puts on a good match, and they've done a good job of making him feel important, I can't see this going any other way. I think they're going to continue to give him the rub and making him feel an important piece of the Impact roster. So losing doesn't hurt in the least. But I don't think it hurts Nick Wayne either. I just don't think losing hurts people if it's done right.
No, not at all. And to my response to everybody who says Nick Wayne can't lose on his premiere, fuck yeah, he can. The kid's 18 fucking years old. Yes, he's incredibly impressive, but he's young he's very young. He's very, very, very young. You can't legally be any younger and wrestle for AEW. like they didn't sign Billy Starks until she turned 18 either. That's as young. The kid, I think it's more telling that he held his own against Swerve Strickland in
100%.
in his debut, and the fact that I know Swerve and him have history. They've wrestled multiple times on the indies. I think they said last night they share a win apiece on each other. So what? So now Swerve's got one up on him. It just opens it up for them to have more matches together. Nick Wayne's going to get plenty of wins. Kid is super talented. But yeah, I don't think, just because, you don't have to pull the Action Andretti effect on him, and have him go over on Jericho. I think his work speaks for itself. He's going to be just fine. You don't, just because some kid's promising doesn't mean he has to go over in his first match. I completely disagree with that mindset.
Absolutely. And I think the same could be said about Leo Rush here. If booked correctly, this could be a long-term feud with Saban and Leo. And even if it's not, there's still a way to make him feel like a megastar here around Impact in this universe of characters. And they've done a good job this thus far. Sitting here 2.5 weeks in, we're sitting here looking at him in a different light than a lot of promotions have presented him. As you mentioned, being a manager with Bobby Lashley, and on AEW, of course, he had the character concerns, to put it lightly, in the locker room, and they seem like they're kind of hitting it on the nose here, and they're facing it head on and utilizing it as storyline fodder. That's that's an interesting way to do it, but it feels like he kind of turned a new leaf. He's comfortable there. We've heard guys that are very comfortable in that Impact locker room, the creative control that they have, and the less pressure of working that schedule and working that environment doesn't feel as conducive for like the stress environment that AEW and WWE may have on people. And Impact may work for people. You know what I mean? Like that's, some people say they like working that style. We talked about Smoky Mountain Wrestling 1994. There's been some commentary from people that worked there in the past. They just enjoyed the lackadaisical approach of like 400 people, and just, Barry Horowitz talked about the difference between Smoky Mountain and WWF. He referenced it's one of the best times in his career because of just the nature of the locker room and how simple it was, and simple not in a bad way. Maybe that's something that it's perfect for Leo's personality, that he can be himself in an environment that kind of accepts who he is, but all these moving parts that aren't there, similar to AEW and WWE.
Yeah. I think I'm glad to have him here. I think Impact's a good place for him to land, and I think he's going to do great things.
So we lead into this match here, and this is going to be previewing the tag team championship match we have down the line. We referenced before the Rascals. They're not involved, so we'll use this segment to talk about the tag titles. Sami Callihan and Rich Swann taking on Moose and Brian Myers. And you texted in our group chat for Brace for Impact, goddamn, Brian Myers is jacked. He's a big boy right now.
Dude, yeah. I mean, you look at, and I mean, he's always been in great shape, but if you look at a picture of Brian Myers tonight and a picture of him 2 years ago, I mean, God, he is just getting huge. He looks fantastic, man. I just feel he gets bigger every time that I see him.
Yeah, and I think looking at the team of Myers and Moose, they work pretty well aesthetically together. Callahan and Rich Swann feel a little bit more thrown together for me. But I do like that they both have a role on this card. I think it would be weird not to have Callahan, Rich Swann, and even Moose on this card for Slammiversary. So I like that they have a prominent championship match. This was a tag match that just kind of existed, not the highlight of the show by any means, but it was setting the story about building these mismatched teams into feeling like they have a chance at taking the titles off ABC. Will they be able to? I don't think so. But let's preview that match if I can find the tag title match here. And we mentioned before, it's ABC versus Moose and Myers, Rich Swann and Sami Callihan. And we also talk about Subculture. We'll get a promo from them in 1 second. But Colton, I defer to you, man. We're looking at this tag title match. We thought it was going to be 5-way. Santino Marella said, it's 4-way. So what do you think, man?
I think ABC retains here, man. And that's, like I said, I'm not trying to discredit any of the other teams in this match, but they've had the titles for 130 plus days now. I think they're just too hot, man, to lose it here. I mean, Moose and Myers, like you said, aesthetically, they work together very well, but this is the first time that they've really teamed together. Swann and Callahan, good buddies, longtime friends, also a little bit of a thrown together team, not super established. Subculture, maybe this could be their time, but I just don't think that it's it, man. I think that ABC takes it here, and especially with what we've seen with Zachary Wentz's return and the stuff that the Rascals have been doing, especially after this week with them trying to cheat to win to get into this match and getting snubbed. I think ABC retains here, and then I think their next opponents going into weekly TV after Slammiversary is going to be the Rascals for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm looking ahead to the Multiverse United show at New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I'm looking at the team that fits the best to kind of have a mixed promotion match. I would say ABC is the best crossover, being the Bullet Club tie, and I just think the matchups are more conducive to having them involved. But we mentioned before earlier in the show, the money feud is ABC and the Rascals. I think that's a huge draw. I think that deserves a full build and deserve it of maybe a stipulation down the line, ladder match, whatever. I think those two teams can have one of the more storied tag feuds for a very long time. And it's just so good to have the Rascals back in the fold to really round out this tag division. The throw together teams are okay sometimes. And, we're seeing it on the AEW side with this, the Battle Bowl like stuff that from WCW concept that with the MJF Adam Cole, that the story is pretty much to get Adam Cole and MJF a tag title shot down the line. That's really the function of this whole thing. But you know what? I like my tag divisions being built on tag teams that are established, and there's no two teams more established Motor City, you can make the argument, but they're otherwise occupied. But I'll take ABC and Rascals all day doing their thing in long form. ABC going over big time in this match, but I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be one of those matches that's going to tell more story than a lot of the other matches on the card. This is going to be a launch point for a bigger program that has a lot of legs, Rascals and ABC.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And we didn't mention before, seeing Chris Bay get pinned in the opening match spoke volumes to me what they thought about the Rascals. Seeing Wentz go over, and of course it was cheating, but it's not often we see Bay or Austin getting pinned, but seeing him get pinned in that match, laying down there, it was a weird optic to see Bay staring up the lights. It was weird. We're so used to seeing on top celebrating in one way or another. So it also shows they have a lot of faith in what they're building with the Rascals.
Yeah, some pretty serious foreshadowing to put Bay going out on his back on the Go Home show.
So we had a quick promo here from Subculture, say they're going to win the titles, and this is just to show that they exist as well because they're not involved in this other match. We had ABC, but as you mentioned before, Subculture maybe somewhere down the line can win the tag titles. I just don't think it's time yet. I do like what they're bringing to the table. I think they are a good addition to this match, but as we talked about before, I just think the story's not there from the win, but there'll be a nice dance partner for the other teams in this match. And then we mentioned about Alan Angels. He's involved in this Ultimate X match. He had a great promo. I'll let you take the lead on here and talked about his split from the design or likely split from the design and targeting what would be Chris Sabin's X Division Championship inevitably.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, Alan Angels, I'm super impressed with the guy. I'm excited to see him separate. But yeah, this was a great promo, man. He's talking about how he was in this match to win. I mean, he's coming to win it. He's in this match to win the Ultimate X match to become the #1 contender for Sabin's X Division title. It also made it clear, yeah, he's no longer with the design. And like I said earlier, I think he do a great job to stand on his own, man. And, I think I think he's the one to win it for sure. He's my pick. And I don't think, honestly, that they'll waste any time, whether it's Leo or whether it's Chris Sabin who wins. I mean, I think before we get to the next pay-per-view, we're going to see the #1 contender for this match on weekly TV take it on. And yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I don't know if Alan Angels will be the one to take it off, either Sabin or Rush, but he'll certainly put on a hell of a match. And the fact that, we get him in this spot, it does a really good job of continuing to kind of paint him in the eyes for the fans as a singles competitor, as somebody that's separate from a faction. And yeah, I mean, I think the guy can stand on his own 2 feet just fine.
So the announcers running down the card for Slammiversary, getting us all hyped up. We had Nick Aldis, a video of his journey back to Impact. Similar story as the Shelley and Aldis promo before, talking, but this was more of Aldis taking aim at Shelley, calling him a hypocrite, saying that you deserve it, that all this stuff about the machine guns owning Impact Wrestling and designing what it is now was completely bullshit. He says it's ridiculous because I built Impact and they weren't there when I beat Jeff Hardy and I retired Sting and I took on Kurt Angle and I wrestled Samoa Joe. He said Aldis claimed that they brought me in to win this championship because he needs to be the guy. And the other great thing is he's saying that he's pretty much a stamp of approval from Harley Race and Ric Flair. And I love, man, that they're tying into the 10 pounds of gold type of stuff. And that's the best Nick Aldis there is, dude, where he's carrying around the arrogance and he's an old school type of professional wrestler and love it. I mean, his character is what, for as a casual fan going into when AEW didn't exist, his character as the champion wrestling Cody in that program was the one what sold me to that buy that pay-per-view. And there was other things that kind of weaved into it, but I was most familiar, most intimate with the Cody character. And that story alone sold me on Nick Aldis forever. And I think we're going to get more of a great run here. Not yet as champion, in my opinion, but I think it's inevitable that this dude's going to be carrying that title like old school Ric Flair, carrying it right by his side, cutting awesome promos that look like they'd be in the Jim Crockett promotions. But goddamn, man, this was really, really well done.
Yeah, it was, man. It just got me even more excited for this match. The more we talk about it, the more I go back and forth, man. I know I picked Shelley earlier, but now I feel like I'm leaning more Aldis. I really don't know. But I love Aldis as a heel, man. I'm glad to see him back in Impact. Just absolutely love him as that arrogant, old school lineage heel. This is going to be a killer main event.
So we have our main event here. And I love that the Knockouts Championship is getting highlighted here in the final segment of the Go Home. Deonna Purrazzo had an open challenge for her Knockouts Women's Championship. And out comes Jody Threat. And they had a very competitive match, Colton. Jody Threat is someone who's been highlighted here. She's been getting a little mini push here in the women's division. But, of course, she comes up short against Deonna Purrazzo. She wasn't going to lose her title on this build to Trinity. Stories after the match, Colton. We have a lot of stuff to talk about with after the match. Of course, building towards this Trinity thing. I'll let you take the lead from here and talk about it. But I was impressed with Jody Threat and what they gave her on the final go home before Slammiversary. They gave her a lot here, and Deonna was selling a little bit, but it made Deonna look strong and all that. But Jody Threat, I walked away like, man, I thought it was going to be a squash, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, same here, man. I thought they gave Jody a lot. I thought it was, this was Jody's first loss in the Knockouts division. So, and I think there's no shame in taking your first loss in your first title shot. She looked really strong here, man. And I thought that was really cool that they did that. Cool Deonna to have this open challenge match on the go home card. I mean, she didn't have to by any means. She's got literally nothing to prove going into this match with Trinity. She is the champion. But I thought, this match was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Great showing with Jody. I think that she's going to, not be too far from the top of the card as far as the Knockouts division goes going forward because of this. But, like you said, obviously Deonna's getting the win here. She's definitely not going to lose it on an open challenge before going into this big match with Trinity. But it wasn't long after she won. Giselle Shaw, Savannah Evans, and Jay Vidal come down and attack them. At that point, the Death Fellas come out to even the score. Then here comes the Coven. It's the whole damn women's locker room is in the ring at this point, man. And then right after that, Trinity comes in, and it's just an all-out brawl. And then we end up with Trinity and Deonna Purrazzo in the ring. Deonna goes to pick up her belt. Trinity puts a hand on it. They kind of come up at the same time and lock eyes. And finally, this little play nice armistice that they've had since Trinity got here finally broke. And Deonna threw a forearm at her, and they were off to the races, man. They went at it at each other, had to be pulled apart by security. I thought this was a really cool end to the show tonight. Really set this Knockouts World Championship match up and elevated it very much so on the card for me. This is going to be a hell of a match, man. Deonna Purrazzo is a hell of a talent. So is Trinity. I'm picking Trinity here. I think she's coming to take that championship. I think she's a big name. She's a big get for Impact, and I think that I'm fully confident that she's taking this title home.
I agree with you, man. Strike while the iron's hot. I think Trinity right now needs to win that championship. She really can't take a loss going. She's undefeated right now, singles and tag competition. Deonna Purrazzo has done great things for the Knockouts World Championship, and she will continue to do great things. But this is why you brought Trinity to the dance. This is why she's here. You put the belt on her, and then you go to war. And I think she's someone that has shown the ability. The inaugural SmackDown Women's Champion. She's been able to carry women's divisions down the line. I love that they ended the show with this. And you can make the argument they ended the show with the teaser, which we'll get into in 1 second. But as far as go home goes, they easily could have had something with Aldis and Shelley to end it. But it shows the emphasis that Impact continues to have on women's wrestling, treating it with importance. And I would dare you to go out and find any of the build towards the last 4 AEW pay-per-views and see if they end their show with a women-driven segment that felt like it wasn't just shoved in there. This Deonna Purrazzo and Trinity, they feel like they're on the same level as the men's world champion. You can make the argument on the WWE side that movement has continued in that direction. Maybe Rhea Ripley feels like she's on par with Seth Rollins. You can make that argument. There's no way on my side that I feel like Asuka or even Bianca Belair at the time is on the same playing field as Roman Reigns. It just doesn't exist. That's not what it is. You can say with a straight face, Deonna Purrazzo and Trinity are treated as equals to the men in this. And it might have to do with intergender wrestling that we've seen here on this promotion. It could have a lot to do with presentation wise as far as how they're presented. But this spoke volumes. And the biggest show on your calendar, and let's emphasize that, you had the women closing it out in a really, really entertaining segment. I think Trinity is going to win, like you said. I think this is what you got her for. But kudos to Deonna Purrazzo, too. She's doing great things with this Knockouts Championship, continuing to take it to the next level. And the future is bright for Impact Wrestling, especially on the women's side of things.
Yeah, man, definitely. This is, like you said, I don't think, Deonna's going to be hurt at all by losing the title here. She's had a great run. She's going to continue to do great things. And yes, Trinity's time, man. I'm excited to see the Knockouts division with Trinity as the face of it.
So before we get to that, the teaser, we had this other match you mentioned before. These ladies had come out here to get involved. Jody Threat was involved in the open challenge. Death Dolls came out. But we also, on the other side, Giselle Shaw, Savannah Evans, and Jay Vidal. We saw all these guys mixed into the build-up to this match, taking on Deonna or Trinity down the line. So predictions for this match. I believe this is on the pre-show, and this match is kind of lead in. Should be a fun match. Giselle Shaw, fresh off of getting a knockout championship shot in Australia. Savannah Evans, we have also involved in some other championship matches down the line. Your pick for this match, Colton, since we're picking all the matches?
I'm going to go with Death Dolls and Jody Threat here, man. I think Jody Threat's on a hot streak right now. Death Dolls, I'm excited to see more development with them. We got that backstage segment with them. I think actually the first week of the show, so 3-4 weeks back now, where they were kind of, I think this is going to be. I think it's brings them back to the forefront a little bit here. This, I think that's who's going to take it.
Yep, and I'm going to even go further. I think Jay Vidal takes the pin myself. So
nice.
So I think that's the finish of the match. It's going to be a nice, fun appetizer for the main card, and I think it's going to be well done. Getting these women on the card is important because they've been integral to the build. They deserve a payoff here, whether it's on the pre-show or not. We're seeing highlighted Joe Hendry on the pre-show, so it's not a small token to be on this buy-in show, whatever you want to call it, for the YouTube version before Slammiversary. They're on the card and well-deserved. Jody Threat in the main event here on the go-home. Like I said, the women's division shining bright. Comment here from RK Shuttleworth. Again, thanks for hanging out with us. There's a long history that Gail Kim could tell you about why the knockouts are where they are. I mean, the women's division continues to be absolutely just one of the highlights for me from the Impact side of things because they put emphasis on it. It feels important. It doesn't feel contrived. And they're trailblazers in a lot of ways. Go all the way back to, the intergender stuff we saw, the mixed tag stuff, and setting the stage for what we see on the independents all over the place. Impact was at the forefront of all those things. I just appreciate everything they're doing. But let's get to the segment we've been kind of teasing all night. Colton, I'll let you lead the way, set the stage for us about what we saw after the show went off the air.
So after the show went off the air, we get a video of Scott D'Amore on the phone talking to somebody. So we forgot to mention that just a couple of segments prior, they did throw up the graphic that Scott D'Amore had a question mark for his partner, that PCO is definitely out. If anybody could come back from having battery acid poured down their throat and being lit on fire, it would be the French Canadian Frankenstein. But like he says on the phone, they've tried all that they can try, and they cannot, in fact, bring PCO back from the dead this time. And he said, the question is, PCO can't come back from the dead. The question is, can you? And camera pans down and shows a shot of a Team Canada jersey. I think it can't be anybody other than Eric Young, man. It's got to be.
Has to be.
Has to be. Eric Young, another Canadian. We haven't seen him in a year. It was at Slammiversary, at Slammiversary last year, he lost to Josh Alexander. And then on December 1st, I believe it was the next episode or the week after episode of Impact on Access TV, Diener stabbed Young, and we haven't seen him since. I mean, as far as Impact Wrestling storyline is concerned, yeah, like we said, he's as good as dead. So if Scott D'Amore's on the phone asking somebody if they can come back from the dead, I think it's pretty definitive that it's Eric Young, which gets me really excited, man. I love Eric Young. I've really, really enjoyed Violent by Design. It's that they were a great faction. Shout out to Joe Dorner as well, man. Hope that he's doing well, and that he's continuing to win the battles in his health issues. But yeah, I mean, it does bring up a little bit of some question because, I mean, according to Fightful, Young had re-signed with WWE back in November of 2022. But I mean, as of July 2023, we've not seen him on TV. So who knows if he's still signed? Who knows if, since they don't have anything for him, he's fine to come back. I think that it's gotta be Eric Young. There's no way it's anybody else.
No way. Yeah. I mean, it has to be someone from Team Canada. That narrows it down for playing the game of Guess Who. You putting down faces on that board. And then it's someone who came back from the dead. The dude was stabbed in a segment here in Cinematic Action. So, which is a segment that it speaks to Impact's creativity. It was pretty well received. People were shocked at what they saw with the violence, but we talk about it all the time with, most recent example is this PCO with the battery acid stuff. They go out of their way to be creative, which is why, the Chads were saying on the flagship today again about Bray Wyatt. I think like Bray Wyatt would thrive in this environment because it fits the aesthetic, because WWE doing the stuff with like the Mountain Dew glow and the swamp stuff, it feels against the grain for WWE, and they don't know how to lean into it. I think the only time they ever really leaned into the cinematic stuff was the Boneyard match, and that even still felt a little bit out of the ordinary and contrived for me. I know people were very, very big fans of it. I'm not a huge fan of that match. It was like, okay. I think it was just kind of a copy of the Impact stuff where you could just go down a list of the Impact cinematic stuff that has existed, whether it be the Broken Universe or anything else. They do that very, very well. A guy like Bray Wyatt could do that very well, and not to go too far off the tangent, but that stabbing stuff is just the latest example of the creativity they do. And looks like Eric Young is coming back from the dead. He was one of those original Triple H brought backs because he's a guy, NXT dude, that he enjoyed booking and had a good time for creative stuff. They never found anything for him. And here we are now back in Impact. So WWE not able to find things for Eric Young. I'm just happy to see him, hopefully, that he's coming back here to emphasize the roster. This dude is, like you mentioned before, he wrestled Josh Alexander for the championship not too long ago.
And
he's a main event dude that deserves it.
RK Shuttleworth, I know you mentioned early on that if I'm assuming that Eric Young is who you were alluding to, saying that if it ends up being Eric Young and that helps pay off the Diener being Bully's teammate there, how that could maybe make it seem that Macklin's injury was staged. I definitely see where you come up with that, but as soon as I heard that the report that Macklin was injured, which was Monday of this week. So not even 4 days after TV last week. That made me think that they knew that Macklin was hurt before they did the segment of lighting PCO on fire. I think that, there would have been no reason to take PCO out if Macklin wasn't hurt. So yeah, I think it was, we'll never know for sure, but I definitely think that I just assumed before that the PCO being taken out was originally a response to Macklin's injury, and that we might actually see a one-on-one match between Scott D'Amore and Bully Ray. But I'm excited to have Diener and Eric Young involved. I like the pick of Diener a lot more with Eric Young coming involved, but I love that they didn't say it. It's going to be a huge surprise. It's going to be a Canadian crowd in Windsor. So I'm sure he's going to get a huge fucking pop when he comes back. Yeah, this is going to be cool. And I'm assuming this will probably be, it'd be interesting to see where they put this on the card, man. I mean, I guess this is going to be second to last. This will probably be before Aldous and Shelley. I mean, it's just such a stacked card, where, I mean, it could really go anywhere, but I feel like it's got to be, no disrespect to the X Division title, but I feel like this has got to be the second most important story of the card.
Yeah, and I think you could probably lump in the X Division and the world title together at this point. Motor City telling their stories together. Now that I'm thinking about the Macklin injury, I think it would be a disservice to him, especially after everything we've done. He's kind of taken the ball and ran with it for at least a little bit there, to write him out in a kayfabe injury and not have a chance to compete at Slammiversary. So I would hope that Impact would allow him to wrestle if he can wrestle. It seems like the injury was there, and I think you're right. They probably wrote PCO off once they knew Macklin was hurt, and then they kind of did their own thing, figuring out the rest of TV and going out for this other match. And good, kudos to them for pivoting and doing something interesting and finding a way to make it happen. Maybe they had Eric Young ready to return in a different capacity. Maybe he would have just found a way to come on the card elsewhere, but this is a nice way to tie him back into the story. And as ridiculous as it is, he's coming back from being stabbed, as RK Shuttleworth said in the chat, the undead realm. I think it's just awesome to have him back on our TVs in a meaningful way. And Eric Young is a talented dude. There's a lot more to give. And I think the best play to give it is on the Impact side of things, because that's where he was thriving. That's the best form of Eric Young we've ever gotten. So I like him coming back to Impact in a big way.
Yeah, it's going to be for having to deal with an injury and calling audible, man. I think they've hit a home run here.
Yeah, it's that's sometimes wrestling, man. Injuries are inevitable, and sometimes booking decisions have to be built around stuff. And we're seeing sort of this tale of like the 1A story of what would have happened if this then didn't happen. I'm curious to see what the original book had. If, say, Alexander was still around, would he have lost the title by now? Would there be a different scope of things? Like, what is Shelley and Sabin doing? Is Sabin like, it's crazy to follow that butterfly effect, but here we are with, this alternate universe type of stuff, that one thing happened and it led to this path where we get to enjoy Alex Shelley in a big event, biggest event on Impact's calendar for the Impact World Championship, defending it against goddamn Nick Aldis, who, like, just long ago, he wasn't here. He went off and did his own thing, and who would have thought it would have went sideways with NWA and he wouldn't be in AEW or WWE. He's here in Impact again. So circumstances have all kind of aligned here, and now we're sitting here enjoying what's going to be a very memorable show on Saturday, July 15th.
Yeah, man, this is going to be one for the books, man. You guys do not miss it. You can stream it on Fight. Yes, don't Slammiversary, don't sleep on it. It's going to be a killer show.
All right, let's get into Impactful and talk about our favorite match or segment of this week.
Impactful.
All right, Colton. So we had a lot to break down, and I like the format we had for this week, weaving it in. I think this is a good way to do a go-home show before a big event instead of segmenting and all that. But that being said, what caught your eye most from the show that you walked away saying, wow, that was my favorite part?
I think match of the night, man, had to be Kevin Knight versus Speedball Mike Bailey. That was it was probably the only match on the card that didn't have anything to do with the Slammiversary card, and it was great, man. It was incredible. I would see those guys fight every night for the rest of my life.
That was my match of the night as well, and I can't wait to see what both these dudes do in the Ultimate X and like go out there and just, man, like what Kevin Knight's going to do in there. Mike Bailey, as I mentioned before, risk taker. But I also got to give a quick shout out to the promo videos for Shelley and Aldis on both sides. Like the first half of the show where they were highlighting Aldis, or the first, they're highlighting Alex Shelley, his climb for 20 years, getting there, and Nick Aldis being this like doubt in the back of his mind, and then taking it to the next level here with Nick Aldis being disrespectful about the contributions on the Motor City Machine Gun side. Really well done. Production is to the next level. And you can even look at the match graphics too. They're clean. Everything that they do on Impact side is production. And it takes it to the next level, not to tie it back into Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but that's something they were lacking. They would have really benefited from a great production team that could put good video packages together. I don't know, it's 1994, but even these match graphics alone, they feel clean. Everything feels big. And I love even their weekly TV graphics. They just look so good and streamlined, and they do an excellent job. And promotions, indie and otherwise, need to learn from that, because that can take an event that's just like I'm not sure if I want to see it, and catches your eye. You see these graphics on social media, you see these videos. How are you not enjoying this product? Like, it catches your eye in a good way.
Yeah, it's incredibly well done.
All right, let's get to shock and awe. We're going to preview next week. We're going to be talking about what's happened in the tavern. We have maybe an update for the mullet competition. Who knows? But here we are, shock and awe. Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
Shock and awe.
All right, here's our final wrap up. As you guys know, this is dropping in audio format. So if you're listening to this audio, we appreciate it. It drops Friday mornings in paired. You can call us twins with the raw down. We're dropping down at the same exact time. So make sure you guys check them out as well. And also watch their video. They just finished talking all things WWE and their build. So you guys also check out, Turnbuckle Tavern. Dude, we just passed 10,000 followers on Instagram. So make sure you guys go and give us some more. The climb to 11,000 now is the next goal. Follow us on Instagram, but you can also go buy a Pro Wrestling Tees t-shirt, but don't go to any of those stupid bootleg sites that have been posting our logos all over the place. Those carnies out there stealing our beautiful shirts. Buy the real thing, guys. Let's buy the shirts here. And I sent some cease and desist letters out to all those companies, whatever their names are. I don't remember any of their names. Not going to give them any credence, but if you want a Pro Wrestling Tees shirt with our logo on it, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and grab one. $19. 4th of July had a great sale. I'm not sure what the next one would be. Probably Labor Day would be the next huge sale they have. But yeah, that's where you can get our shirts. Not some random shirt from Pakistan or whatever. Don't buy those shirts.
Yeah, fuck those clowns. They're just going to steal your credit card. They're not going to get you a shirt at all. So Teespring and Pro Wrestling Tees are the only places to get official tavern merch.
So next week for Impact, we'll be covering, the Thursday Fallout show, 7/20. Believe it or not, we're already halfway the midway part of July as we cruise through the summer here, talking all things Impact. But here in the tavern, of course, tomorrow you can find myself and Colton with Mike Bellcaster talking about Smoky Mountain Wrestling 1994. Episode 2 was a great time, recorded on Sunday. We'll be recording episode 3 this Sunday, which will air. So make sure you guys stay tuned. We're going to be talking all things Prince Karras, all things Macho Man Randy Savage and Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Believe it or not, yes, I said Macho Man Randy Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts, whatever you guys want to talk about with Smoky Mountain Wrestling, it's probably on there, covering in long form. It was such a fun conversation, and I'm learning a lot, dude, as we do the research and watch. And I've been listening to shoot interviews. I know Jake has his podcast, Snake Pit. I just listened to a shoot interview about his time at Smoky Mountain Wrestling, short-lived be it, but man, there's a lot of stuff out there. If you dig, just for the short period of time Smoky Mountain existed, there was a lot of stuff to digest because who knew, man? Who knew?
Yeah, a lot of wild stuff went on, man. We're having a great time with it. Like Ace said, yeah, catch us tomorrow on the Tavern YouTube. And we audio drop on Friday as well, or is it?
Shot Nostalgia is Saturday morning. Yep.
Saturday morning for the audio drop. So yeah, catch us with Mike Bellcaster every Friday. So yeah, this will be episode 2 this Friday. This is a shorter season, only 7 episodes. But man, we're having a blast. So come hang out with us.
We'll be announcing our next season of Shot Nostalgia, season 5, very soon. I'm waiting for the teaser graphic from Chad. He's the master behind all these beautiful graphics we have here. Some people make different graphics for the shows, but as far as the overlays go, on my side, I know Young Anthony made a killer overlay for the AEW wrap-up crew, which, let's mention that. They're a new time, Sunday, 10 p.m. Make sure you check them out. We literally have shows, guys. If you're watching for the first time, RK Shuttlesworth, I'm not sure if you've been here before, but we have shows that cover every single aspect of professional wrestling. AEW, WWE, we have a debate show that drops as well. You can find Colton on there as well. We're just cruising, man, giving you guys free content for professional wrestling. Night in, night out. We just do it for the love of the game, man. I love talking wrestling with my fellow Tavernites here. It's been a blast, and this has been so much fun. I sit and watch Impact every Thursday and being like, God damn, I'm so glad we switched from Ring of Honor. So glad.
Man, me too. Not to drag Ring of Honor through the mud or anything, but man, I'm having a lot more fun doing Impact.
I just heard that Mark Briscoe's out for Death for Dishonor, and we'll talk about that in wrestling tonight.
Jesus. Okay.
So I don't know who's going to be facing Claudio for the title, but he's out now. So
damn, very.
Can't resist but give you some ROH news here on this slot. It just feels right.
That's right.
But you guys can also catch Colton. I think you're going to be joining us for Wrestling Tonight this week, right?
Yeah, I'll be popping on for the we'll do the reaction to Slammiversary, and then also to help you guys preview Death Before Dishonor. So it's been a while since I've come on Wrestling Tonight. I absolutely love coming on there with you and Chad. I love that show. Wrestling Tonight, guys, is a great one-stop shop to get any and all wrestling news for literally everything going on in the professional wrestling world. It's especially if you're, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. It's a lot of content to keep up with, but it's, if you're having trouble getting everything in 1 week, Wrestling Tonight's a great spot to keep caught up. So I'm really looking forward to being on with you guys this coming Monday.
I appreciate it, my friend. And that's all we got for you guys. Make sure you guys, like we said, go support us. Follow at Mall.mania. Follow me at Acefield Retro, posting all the news. Go to remarkablewrestling.com and pick up. Man, if you guys are in the Long Island area, we have an open house for the new school opening August 1st. So if you guys are in the area, you want to see if you have what it takes to be a professional wrestler or valet or a referee or an announcer of some sort, and you want to be involved in professional wrestling business in some way, make sure you guys come out to Wisconsin, New York on Long Island and check out Remarkable Wrestling. Brand new school open house August 1st from 6 to 10 p.m. We got food and drinks and all that stuff going on. And also get your tickets to own the night. We just talked about Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. They will be in the goddamn house. Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. I don't know if I can reveal their opponents yet. I do know who they are. You're not going to want to miss the matches. It's going to be absolutely epic. Can't wait to see Motor City Machine Guns live and in person and have the privilege and honor of calling that. Maybe they'll be champions. Maybe they won't. Who knows?
Yeah,
So
that'll be a good time, man. I wish I was going to be up in the Long Island area to come up for that one.
Hell yeah, my man. Well, until next week, guys, we appreciate the support. We love you guys listening to this. We'll catch you guys next week when we have another episode of Impact. We'll catch you guys. Enjoy your night.